yes, something is happening in the current language of neuroscience and sort of the current clinical view. I don't know if you've read Michael Pollan's book yet.
Yes.
Okay, well, he talks about it. What's happening is, what do these things actually do on the experiential level? I think Robin Carpart Harris has it right. They disrupt what they call the default mode network. And the default mode network is what I have been calling for a long time the reality hallucination. You know, but let's back up from that. What does Carhart Harris say the default mode network is? Pollan describes it very well in his book. It's a set of processing tools that takes information in from the external world, and a lot of what the brain does is filter things out. It's not so much a gateway for information. It's a valve. It's a very tight valve, making sure only certain things get through, the things that are important to your immediate survival. And then the associative and processing parts of the cortex, it will relate that to memories, which are sort of learned patterns, learned things that have happened to you and your anticipation of the future. So the default mode network is something that interprets your immediate experience, whether, you know, in terms of what it already knows, you know, in terms of patterns that it already knows. So things happen. Nothing is ever really novel. You could say, oh yeah, I remember when that happened. It was similar to this, and so, okay, it makes sense. Psychedelics, and the ego part of that is this part that is sort of narrating the show, narrating your reality hallucination. And psychedelics temporarily disable that. The default mode network is offline. It's offline. So your ego, for a brief time, if you're lucky, is shut up. Just shut up. Let me pay attention to what's really going on. A lot of what psychedelics do is they bring the background forward and they suppress what's always in our background. That's a very valuable thing, because there's a lot going on in the background that we are conditioned never to notice because we think they're unimportant. They are important, but you know, they're not about threats to your immediate survival. So we're preconditioned both culturally and evolutionarily to suppress those things. So you take the default mode network offline and you can open yourself up to all these other things that you never pay attention to. And then you realize, wow, I'm missing a lot. These are very important. These are aspects of, interactions with reality that I just never noticed before. And then you notice them and you realize these are in some ways more important than what your ego and your default mode network, you know, forces you to look at all the time. You know, and there's times when that's not a useful thing. You know, that's not a useful thing. So you know, we wouldn't want to be without our default mode network most of the time. It's what makes us functional. It's what makes us able to sit here and have this conversation, or, you know, open a can of tuna fish, or make an appointment, or, you know, do all the things we have to do. So it's very useful, but sometimes you just want that to shut down temporarily. The beautiful thing about it is that you can do that with the psychedelic. You can temporarily disrupt it. Psychedelic is over with, it all falls together again. It all comes back because systems tend toward equilibrium. So the equilibrium will be reestablished, and it'll be more functional than it was before. It's like defragging your hard drive. You know, the more it functions, you get all these, you know, glitches and mistakes and so on. So, you know, that make it not run smoothly. So if you can essentially just blow it apart and bring it back together, it's like rebooting your computer. It works better after you've rebooted it. You got rid of a lot of stuff that's built up. So then you can go forward with a better clarity of mind and a better consciousness of the importance of this background and the fact that this is going on too. You can appreciate that more and maybe even apprehend more of it on a unstoned daily basis.
And without it, I get lost in my reality hallucination.
Without that, you do, or one can. I mean, there are other ways to get out of the reality hallucination, meditation and this sort of thing. But that takes a lot of practice, and a lot of times it doesn't work. Psychedelics are like a kick in the ass in a certain way. They dissolve this default mode network, whether you want it to or not. And, but it's a temporary thing. And then it reconstitutes, and, you've learned from that experience for once you have had a chance to get all that chatter to just quiet down, and you can pay attention to things that are normally drowned out by the noise, So that's the useful of psychedelics, I think. And that all goes back to, that's why you can change habits, that's why you can overcome addictions or change the way you think about your relationships, or, all of these sort of therapeutic mental health issues have to do with this ability to disrupt the default network and let it come back in a more functional way.
Do you think most people in this world live too much inside their default network, their reality hallucination, or just the dominance of their own ego?
Yeah, I think this is the problem mostly.
And they never get a break from it.
They never get a break because they don't have these catalysts, or they don't care, or they're afraid of it. So they labor under this illusion of separation between them and everything else. And this is the primary delusion that enables us to be separated from nature, and this perception that we're separated from nature. It's because we bought into this delusion. But with the psychedelic, you take it and you realize there's no separation. We're all one, right? And we're not separate from nature. We're all part of this thing. And those realizations are, that's what characterizes the so-called mystical experience. We're all one, and we're not separate. And there is a world of meaning beyond what we can see all the time. There's a world of perception and understanding and meaning that goes beyond what is available to ordinary perception. So that's the therapeutic aspect of psychedelics. It basically comes down